November 2014. Hollywood has no idea it's about to witness one of the most infamous cyber attacks in history. One morning, employees at Sony Pictures turn on their computers and are greeted by a terrifying message. All servers are locked, files have been wiped, and a mysterious hacker group calling itself Guardians of Peace announces this is just the beginning. Soon, confidential data begins to leak online. Unreleased films, salary information of Hollywood stars, and private emails between top executives. But the most dangerous part is yet to come. The hackers issue an ultimatum. Sony must cancel the release of a movie that mocks North Korea's leader, or face catastrophic consequences. This attack wasn't just a data breach. It changed how the world thinks about cybersecurity, politics, and the power of information. Sony Pictures was on the edge of disaster. In a single night, a billion-dollar film studio became a helpless target. Employee computers were useless. Internal servers frozen. Corporate emails shut down. And every screen showed the same eerie message from the hacker group, Guardians of Peace. We've hacked your network and stolen your secrets. Soon, the world will know the truth. At first, employees thought it was some kind of technical glitch. But when a skull logo appeared on their screens with the phrase #, hacked by $GOP, it became clear. This wasn't just a malfunction. This was something far more serious. How did the hackers break into Sony? Initial reports suggested the attackers had infiltrated Sony's internal network long before the actual breach. They may have used phishing emails, infected attachments, or simply exploited weak passwords to gain access. For months, they quietly moved through Sony's databases, pulling terabytes of sensitive data. Then they struck. What did they steal? No one imagined a cyber attack could turn into a full-blown apocalypse for one of the world's biggest movie studios. Sony Pictures lost gigabytes of confidential information, with consequences that rocked not only the company, but the entire film industry. Here's what was leaked: contracts, salaries, and personal data. Thousands of Sony employees, from junior staff to top execs, had their private information stolen. Internal emails about salaries, bonuses, and talent deals were exposed. The release of this data damaged reputations and created tension inside the company and across Hollywood. Unreleased films. This was the most painful blow. Big studio releases, still in the middle of their marketing campaigns, were suddenly leaked to the public. Blockbusters like Zootopia and Vanity Fair were pirated and watched by thousands before ever hitting the big screen. The leak disrupted marketing plans and caused major financial losses, as interest in theater releases plummeted once pirated versions were online. Future project plans. Hackers stole scripts, casting deals, and strategic plans for upcoming productions. Competitors, and the public, gained access to detailed information about films that hadn't even been announced. Sony lost the ability to keep secrets, and any new project risked being exposed before it was ready. Financial documents. Sony's internal financial reports were also leaked, including profit forecasts and spending plans. Investors and partners were alarmed. The breach raised serious concerns about Sony's ability to protect its interests, and stock prices took a hit. The IT department in panic, a technological disaster. Right after the attack, Sony launched an emergency operation to regain control of its servers. But it was already too late. Hackers had completely locked down the system. Every recovery attempt failed. It became painfully clear that Sony's IT team was unprepared for an attack of this scale. All they could do was watch as Sony lost control of its internal systems, and with each new leak, the damage grew worse. At first, just a few documents were published. Then full archives, entire snapshots of Sony's internal life, started appearing online, destroying any trust left in the company. And then came the next shock. Unreleased films hit pirate networks. Hollywood was stunned. Movies that hadn't even premiered yet were suddenly available for anyone to download. Titles like Durarara and Zootopia showed up on torrent sites, and millions of people could watch them for free, violating copyright and causing massive financial losses for Sony. The damage was irreversible. Even after the official releases, Public interest had already dropped because the pirated versions were so widespread. It was a brutal blow to Sony, especially in an industry that depends on keeping films under wraps until the premiere. With each passing day, the situation got worse. Directors, producers, and actors across Hollywood realized that their personal information could now fall into anyone's hands, and their private lives were no longer protected. Private emails, insider details, and even confidential contracts were now publicly accessible. The data leak scandal surrounding Sony exploded into one of the biggest crises the global film industry had ever seen. Hollywood could no longer operate with peace of mind, knowing that even the most secret projects could end up in the hands of hackers. Email inboxes of Sony's top executives, once completely sealed off from the outside world, had become an open book for everyone, from journalists to everyday internet users. Angelina Jolie, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, was among the first to be caught in the crossfire. In one leaked email, Sony executives mocked the actress, calling her a minimally talented, spoiled brat. These words weren't just offensive, they sparked outrage among fans. People were stunned that high-level studio leaders could speak this way about one of Hollywood's most iconic figures. In another leaked email, Sony producers casually speculated about the kinds of movies President Barack Obama might enjoy, making thinly veiled references to his race. The backlash was immediate and global. The people involved were forced to issue public apologies, but the damage had already been done. The scandal revealed the level of insensitivity and even racism within the leadership of one of the world's largest film studios. Another bombshell came from leaked discussions revealing that Sony planned to replace Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. Fans, many of whom believed Garfield was perfect for the role, reacted with fury. The leak sparked a wave of fan outrage, forcing the company to reconsider how it engaged with its audiences and their expectations. Alongside the email leaks, financial documents also surfaced online, sparking heated debates. Actor salaries, private contracts, and once secret business projects were now fully exposed. Leonardo DiCaprio, a constant figure in the spotlight, came under scrutiny after it was revealed that he was paid more than $25 million for a single film. The disclosure raised questions about studio spending and led to broader conversations about whether actors are overpaid in Hollywood. Jennifer Lawrence, another A-list star beloved by audiences, faced a different kind of controversy. The leaked data revealed she was being paid significantly less than her male co-stars. This revelation triggered a major public debate about gender pay inequality in the film industry, shining a light on ongoing discrimination against women in Hollywood. The world was in shock. Sony was in panic, and the hackers weren't stopping. Every day, new waves of leaked information were hitting the internet. Sony was losing control over its own reality. The film industry was bleeding money, reputations were being destroyed, and people were genuinely afraid for their safety. Then, the Guardians of Peace made their boldest move yet, a demand that turned the cyberattack into a full-blown international crisis. The hackers issued an ultimatum that rocked Hollywood to its core. Sony must immediately cancel the release of The Interview, a satirical comedy in which CIA agents are sent to assassinate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Weeks before the film's premiere, an anonymous message appeared online. But this wasn't just another leak. This was a threat that sounded like a declaration of war. Remember September 11, 2001. We will give you a greater tragedy. Anyone who goes to see the movie will be in danger. The world will be full of fear. This wasn't just a data breach anymore. This was a terrorist threat. Now the studio had to decide: risk the lives of moviegoers and theater staff, or give in to the hackers and cancel the film's release. Hollywood went into panic mode. Major movie theater chains across the US, fearing potential attacks, began pulling the movie from their schedules. People were scared to go to the movies. No one wanted to risk their life for a comedy. The US government was closely watching, and the FBI soon announced it believed the attack was linked to North Korea's regime. On December 20th, 2014, Sony officially announced The Interview would not be released in theaters. The decision sparked a massive backlash. Many felt the studio had surrendered to terrorists, setting a dangerous precedent. The hackers had proven they could control not just information, but freedom of speech in Hollywood. But the story didn't end there. Amid growing international outrage, the US formally accused North Korea of orchestrating the cyber attack. President Barack Obama criticized Sony's decision, saying the company had made a mistake by backing down. In a last-minute move, Sony reversed course and released the movie online instead. The interview became the most downloaded film of the year, a symbol of resistance and digital freedom. The entire saga proved one thing: cyber warfare isn't the future, it's already here. Who was behind the Sony hack? When the shocking details of the Sony Pictures cyber attack came to light, the world was left asking, who did this? Just days after the leaks began, the US government made its official claim: North Korea was behind the attack. Why Kim Jong-un? The answer seemed obvious to many. The movie at the center of the storm, The Interview, was a satirical comedy that mocked Kim Jong-un. And the hackers weren't just leaking data. They were demanding the film be pulled and even threatened terrorist attacks if it wasn't. It seemed too specific to be a coincidence. Most believed Pyongyang would do anything to stop this public humiliation of their dictator. The US government said the attack looked familiar. Similar tools and techniques had been used in previous North Korean cyber attacks on banks and corporations. All the signs pointed to one culprit. But not everyone was convinced. Cybersecurity experts raised questions. Experts began noticing things that didn't quite add up. The complexity of the attack. While the hackers used tools linked to North Korea, the overall operation seemed very sophisticated, possibly too advanced for a typical state-run group. No hard evidence. There were no direct links tying the attack to the North Korean government. Some even suggested the breach might have come from inside Sony, or been carried out by a completely different group. Despite the doubts, the US stood firm. President Barack Obama's administration publicly blamed North Korea and imposed new sanctions, escalating tensions between the two countries. The US called it a direct attack on free speech, an act of cyber aggression against creative expression. Why would North Korea care so much? North Korea has always been extremely sensitive to criticism, especially when it targets their supreme leader. Even though The Interview was just a comedy, for Kim Jong-un, it was a direct insult and absolutely unacceptable. Still, the real question remains: was this really an attack ordered by Pyongyang? Or was it just a well-timed threat aimed at damaging Hollywood for other reasons? Some experts leaned toward the idea that another cyber group could have been involved, possibly hired by a third party or acting independently. But even with growing doubts, North Korea remained the prime suspect. The cyber attack had global consequences and proved how cybersecurity can now be used to undermine entire industries and manipulate public discourse. When the hackers, calling themselves Guardians of Peace, launched their attack on Sony Pictures, the damage was unprecedented. No movie studio in Hollywood history had ever suffered losses like this. This wasn't just a data leak. This was cyber warfare, and the impact was felt far beyond Los Angeles. Sony's financial losses were massive. Wasted marketing budget. Most of the money for promoting The Interview had already been spent. Lost box office revenue. Since the movie didn't premiere in theaters, Sony had to rely on online sales, which couldn't make up for the expected theater profits. IT recovery costs, rebuilding security systems, launching investigations, and protecting against future threats cost millions of dollars. Total financial losses? Estimated in the tens of millions. The damage wasn't just financial. Sony's image took a massive hit. Lost trust from partners. Business partners around the world became hesitant. Joint projects were put on hold, and even celebrities began pulling out of Sony films. Public scandals. Thousands of internal emails were leaked, some containing embarrassing comments about actors, filmmakers, and even President Obama. Sony was forced to publicly apologize and reassure shareholders. The attack shook Hollywood to its core. Studios across the industry scrambled to overhaul their cybersecurity. If it could happen to Sony, it could happen to anyone. The Sony hack marked the beginning of a new era in cybersecurity. This wasn't just about stealing information. It was about shutting down voices, censoring art, and threatening freedom of expression. Every film, every project from now on could become a target, not just for critics, but for hackers anywhere in the world. Hollywood was forced to wake up and think seriously about how to protect its creative freedom and economic interests in the digital age. More than anything, the Sony Pictures attack proved that cyber terrorism is real. Hackers now have the power not just to steal, but to blackmail major corporations, using threats of violence to get what they want. Governments, companies, and everyday people finally started to understand. This isn't just a tech problem. It's a global issue that requires international cooperation. The Sony Pictures hack wasn't just one of the biggest cyber attacks in history. It reshaped the way we think about cyber threats. For Hollywood, it marked the start of a new reality. Cybercrime isn't just about money anymore. It's about controlling culture, speech, and safety. Sony has never fully recovered, but the world learned a hard lesson, and everything changed.